Hello, welcome back to my channel. The Divine Mind is day-oyabunmi. Thank you so much for joining me today. Special shout out to the members of my Divine Tribe on Patreon who are always the first to see these videos. I truly appreciate your support. Ashe. So today we're diving into the topic, how to spring clean your mind. Yes, you heard it right, how to spring clean your mind. Around this time of the year, it's spring here in the northern hemisphere. We're starting to see the trees, become more lush and they're coming alive. Our grass is growing, the animals are out, everything's just coming alive. And we're typically encouraged around this time to do like a deep spring cleaning of our homes, our spaces. It's like this collective tradition, right, that people have typically. But it occurred to me that we need to do the same thing with our minds. We need to take the time out to cleanse and clear them of heavy, repetitive, toxic thinking and thought processes and habits. Okay. And we're going to get into 5 steps on how to, get in there and clean it out. Before we move forward, if you're interested in a personal tarot reading, an Ifa reading, Ifa-Orisa related ebooks and online trainings, and other ebooks, check out my website, daydreamalston.com. The link will be in the description below. And also, if you want to support this channel, consider subscribing if you're not a subscriber already, and be sure to smash the like button, okay? It really helps the channel to grow. So, number 1, when we're spring cleaning our minds at this time, we're going to focus on leaving behind these default programs or these like ways that we are on autopilot when it comes to our minds. And when I say that, I mean we have to become hyper vigilant of like habitual thought patterns, right? So the mind is really good at forming a habit and then perpetuating a habit. And this is especially true when it comes to our thoughts. There are ways of thinking that you have right now that you developed years ago. And maybe years ago they made sense. Maybe they served you in some way. But there are some thought processes that you have right now that are not helpful to you, that are a harm to you, which block and stop you. So the first thing we need to do when we're working on coming out of this default mode is to become hypervigilant of our thoughts, right? And our thought processes. So this means becoming the observer of your mind, like recognizing that you are not your thoughts, but that you are the observer of your thoughts. You can actually stand back consciously and watch the thoughts as they come in and out. And then once you get adept at that, because it does take some practice, this is something I've been working on for years, and I'm finally like an expert at seeing my thought processes. I wasn't like that before, right? Which made it very easy for me to go into deep depressive states and things like that because I wasn't catching my train of thought before it brought my emotion down. Okay? So we're going to then, after we become hypervigilant, we're going to start interrupting the default thinking that we have, right? So say you have a tendency to spiral into negative thinking when something doesn't go your way, right? Maybe you had something planned or you were going to do a certain thing, you had your mind set on it. Maybe you were going to get this particular job and you started planning, you were really excited, it doesn't come through, and then the barrage of negative thinking starts. Now, before you were hypervigilant, you would let that barrage go on, and it would bring you down, drag you down to the pit of despair, right? But now that you're interrupting this thought process, you see it clearly. It's okay to be disappointed that you didn't get the job, but you don't want to heap shit on top of that disappointment, right? And what I mean by heap shit, you don't want to start to feel even worse about it because now you're replaying this narrative that things don't work out for you, that you're a victim, that things never go right for me. You know, you don't want to do that. So, in a situation like that, instead of going off onto that tangent of negative, heavy, toxic thinking, which will in turn bring negative, heavy, toxic emotion, you stop. You acknowledge that you're disappointed, right? That's okay. But what you're not going to do is heap shit on top of that shit, okay? But we're interrupting it. So you want to find what works for you in this case. For me, I like to journal, right? I like to do like a brain dump, get it all out, write it all down. This is how I feel. You know, this is why I'm disappointed. Typically, that helps me to feel better. For some people, it might be exercising, going for a walk. Some people practice mindfulness, which is just like it could be like a paying attention to your breath, right? It's a meditative practice of being in the moment and focusing on what's going on. So find something that works for you that will help you to interrupt these patterns, okay? And I want you to see your thoughts and your emotions. You can actually see both of them as like clouds in the sky. And you know how you'll look up at a cloud and the cloud will be at one point and then later on it'll be done moved away, and that's how you need to see your thoughts and emotions. Let them pass just like clouds in the sky. And what you want to do in order to come out of this default thinking is to practice this consistently. You want to practice being hypervigilant of these thoughts, and then you want to practice interrupting this default, okay? It takes practice, but it's like this is the most important work you'll ever do, because if you can regulate your mind or get to a point where you don't feel like your mind is running the show, you can see some really great leaps and bounds in your life. Number 2, for how to spring clean your mind, we're actually going to do a coconut water bath for an energetic reset. Okay, so for those of you who want to do this, I suggest that you either get a fresh coconut, or you can get coconut water that comes in the container, right? Either way is fine. What we're going to do 3 days in a row is before bed, we're going to wash our head in this coconut water, which means you're going to pour the coconut water over your head, massage it in, and while you're massaging it in, you're going to pray that your mind be renewed, refreshed, and cleared energetically. We're praying, we're setting the intention that we're clearing the energetic debris that we've picked up in the prior days, weeks, and months, okay? So you're going to do that 3 nights in a row. After you bathe your head with the coconut water, say a prayer, you can pat it down with either a towel or a paper towel. You don't want to dry it completely. You can let it air dry for a little while. That would be good. And then you're going to sleep with some type of white scarf or do-rag or something like that on your head. Okay? And record any dreams that you have during this time. This is going to be our way of setting the intention to do like a energetic reset, okay, using the energy of coconut water. Coconut water is good for cleansing, renewal, refreshment, but also for bringing like a peace, right? A coolness to one's head. So that's number 2 for how we're going to spring clean our minds at this time. Hey, if you're interested in a personal tarot reading, an Ifa reading, a Ifa-Orisa reading, if you're interested in Ifa-Orisa online trainings, ebooks, even an ebook on how to read tarot intuitively, or my Patreon, check out my website, daydreamalston.com, or the description box below. And please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Ashe. Number 3, and all of these steps I'm laying out are things that I got from ideas that I got from the divine, because I really sat down and was like, okay, divine, I have this idea, but what would you suggest we do to clear this energy, to have this reset of the mind? And number 3 came up as spend time in nature. So we're being encouraged to spend time outside as often as possible. While you're doing that, you want to make sure to take deep cleansing breaths. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Do that at least 3 times once a day while you're outside. The divine suggested that we just sit and use our senses to process what's going on around us when we're out in nature, right? So we're not sitting and looking at our phones. We're not sitting and reading. Sometimes we're just sitting out in nature, just sitting, just being. While you're there, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you feel? Really use your senses. I was shown that this is a great way to reset your mind, not just for spring cleaning purposes, right? But at any time, this gets the air kind of rushing past you, can take things off of you energetically. It's just really helpful. And you want to absorb the sun's rays. So when the sun is high and bright and warm, you want to get out there and get some of that good energy. Number 4, for how to spring clean our minds, meditate at least 15 minutes a day. And this came through so clearly from the divine. I was thinking about the topic yesterday, and my clear audience, they were like, meditate. And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. You've said this a dozen times already. I'm going to tell them. Maybe that should have been number 1, right? Since I'm being harassed about it. But there's this need to meditate. For those of you who do not do it, meditating at least 15 minutes a day. Meditation looks different for different people. The meditation I'm speaking of is the one where you sit in a quiet space. Some people lay down and you just are quiet. Some people use meditation, music. Some people, just don't use anything. And what you want to do is just relax, focus on your breath. Don't overthink it. I notice people get a little frantic and they start feeling like, well, oh my goodness, I'm thinking too much. Yeah, the mind chatters all day, every day. That's what the mind is doing, what the mind does, What you do is when those thoughts come in, just try to, again, it's hypervigilance, right? You see the thoughts come in and you allow them to pass. Just don't focus on them, because if you focus on them, then, you get distracted from just being, So when you find yourself thinking, when you have a thought that crosses your mind during meditation, see it, recognize it, honor it, and then let it pass. For those of you who want to use your meditative practice to visualize, I suggest visualizing a member of your cosmic council or your divine support system. How that person looks is going to come to us all in different ways. But you want to see this member of your cosmic council coming and clearing your head in some way, so they can be bathing it with water. Maybe they have some type of milky white bath that they're using to bathe your head. Maybe they're just massaging your head. Whatever it is, you're visualizing them removing energetic debris, okay? We're watching them remove the energetic debris and picturing it being washed away. That's for those of you who don't like to just meditate. If you're someone who likes visualization, then this could be helpful. You can try both and see which one works for you. And lastly, number 5, I'm going to provide you with some journaling prompts, okay? I'm going to encourage you to identify 3 default thought processes that you may have, right? Write them down. So if you have a tendency of having like a poverty or lack mindset, maybe you grew up in poverty and because of that, you're like afraid. You're afraid of not having, of losing money, like some people like willing to do anything for money because they're afraid of going back to that place. So if that's something you have, writing it down. If you have like victim mentality where you always feel like the victim, you feel like life is beating your ass and everything is unfair, write that down. If you're someone who has trust issues, defensiveness, whatever it is that is a default thought process for you that you've noticed over the years has plagued you, write it down. And this takes a lot of self-awareness. You got to be able to, see these things about yourself. Like, what is it that I struggle with? For me, I struggled with, for a long time, lack of confidence, right? And because of that, I would seek validation from others, which put me in some really foul situations. And I know that about myself, right? So lack of confidence would, even though I've gotten better, it would still go on my list of default thought processes, right? Now, I want you to write out what the root of these mental struggles are, right? What is the root of your default thought process? What would be the root of my lack of confidence? Probably, growing up in the projects as a little black girl and having people tell me I can't aspire to certain things, like, oh, you can't do that, you can't be that. I used to hear that a lot. Like, I'll be all excited. I'm like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that in life, and they'd be like, you can't do that. I wanted to go to a certain school. You can't get into that school. Basically, you're not smart enough, little black girl. Sit your ass down. So figure out the root. What is the root of the way that you process certain information of this particular default, right? Now, when you start to look at the root, the causes of it, I want you to do a complete mind dump, release it all, write it down on a page. This is what you've noticed about where this comes from. These are the scenarios and situations you've experienced that exacerbated this thought process, things like that. After that, I want you to write what you know to be true right now. So yes, that was an issue in the past, right? Lack of confidence was an issue in the past because of these reasons. But now, this is what I know to be true. I am capable. I have the will, the strength, the smarts to do the things that I want in life in spite of what others would say or think about me, right? Like, write down what you know to be true right now. So what is the truth about that situation, that thought process in this moment? Because it's probably not still true. We just carry things from the past. It's a habit, right? It's a habitual thought process. After that, I want you to write down what you can do to break free of these defaults. So it's kind of like developing action steps. What are those action steps going to look like for you? Is it going to be disrupting that thought pattern? And if it's going to be disrupting it, how are you going to disrupt it? Right? What is that going to look like for you? For me, I can use mantras to remind myself that I am, capable of creating, of building, of crafting the life that I want. I can, have mantras, prayers that speak of confidence, things like that, okay? And I want you to identify what that's going to look like for you. I hope this has been helpful. I really sat down with the divine to draw, this information in so that I could share it with you. I hope that it's a blessing. Happy spring cleaning. Let's get our minds nice and refreshed and renewed for the next phase of this life. Ashe.